Hello, YouTube. This is Zach. I know it's been a while since I did a formal video of any kind of anything other than me moping about the state of my life. But today we have today we have the great Martin Miller. He's decided to drop in with me and have a chat with us. He's a good friend of mine, a voice student of mine, and I just figured it was about time we had a talk on here. So how's it going, man?
Um, Reasonably good. There's some weird stuff happening in my building.
Yeah,
Um, Neighbor related, but other than that, I'm fine.
that's great. Awesome. So what's been going on with you? I know we haven't really had a lot of time to catch up and things. What's new with you? What you been up to?
Just this and that. I'm always working on something YouTube related. I was going to be in the studio a couple weeks ago. That didn't happen because our keyboard player Marius fell off his bike and injured his hand. So has been postponed. So in the meantime, I don't know when this comes out. In the meantime, I've been recording a cover version of a song, but unlike what I usually do on my YouTube channel where it's recorded live with a band in the room, it's more of a produced thing and the video is recorded after the fact just
Mhm.
to accompany the audio, really. So I've been working on that. I've been working on my record. As you know, that's been coming to a bit of a halt because of a minor injury I've been carrying for a while. Yeah, teaching the works.
To give
Keeping
everybody
busy.
watching a little bit of a background here, Martin is a voice student of mine, but more importantly, Martin he's an Ibanez endorsed guitarist. He is a YouTuber, and he is currently working with what is called the Martin Miller Session Band. Is that what you call it? Right? Is that the name of it?
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
And right now they've
we
been
had to give it a name eventually.
yeah, they've been doing covers of a lot of iconic songs of various kinds. Check out his YouTube channel, and you can kind of see what he's all about. I mean, they've done covers of everything from Led Zeppelin to what they've done. I can't.
All,
Paul,
all.
he's worked with Paul Gilbert. I mean, like he's worked with some huge name guitarists. So, feel free to check his stuff out. He's incredible. Great singer. Great guitarist. He's the man. So that's why he's relevant. I know that I haven't talked about him a whole lot on the channel, but this is why he's here. So, yeah. So tell us about your new album. I know about it. I know some of the stuff going on with it, but the people that are watching don't. So tell us a little bit about it.
So yeah, that album is kind of the culmination of my journey as a vocalist, really, which started about 4.5 years ago. I might say, yeah, a little more than 4 years ago. I decided I wanted to study another instrument. It was between getting serious about piano or the voice, and I was going to give myself a little trial with the voice, see if I have any talent for it. And so I did a bit of singing, did some recording, took a few lessons locally here and there, and then I was amazed at the progress I made. And at the time, it sounded beautiful to me. If I listen back to these recordings now, it's the most horrendous thing I've ever listened to. But it was enough for me to decide that it's worth pursuing. And in the subsequent months and years, I've really gotten into singing in kind of the same way I've gotten into the guitar in the first years of guitar playing. I got really passionate about it, really serious about it too. And yeah, and that album basically is the culmination of me becoming a guitar player slash producer slash singer. Like that is kind of the three things that I see myself doing in the future, pursuing. It's those three things: the production side, the guitar side, and the vocal side, with the guitar always being the priority because that's my first instrument. That's what feels like home. That's what I feel most comfortable with. But the production and the singing kind of nurturing that and expanding my palette of expression. Like I can write completely different music. I can finally now write music and perform music as a singer that I always wanted to do. My first album was a guitar-centric record, but that was not something I ever really wanted to do. It was kind of something that I felt like I needed to do to
Mm-hmm.
be considered a legitimate guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have a guitar-driven instrumental record. That's been what, 7 years ago, and I've now moved on to doing music that really excites me, and the kind of music I would have listened to in my late teens or something, you know.
Let me ask you this about it, because this is something I've actually been wanting to ask you offline as well. This might as well ask you here. Like,
Hmm.
considering you're at, the high level of guitar playing that you have, like you're obviously an elite level guitarist. What when you sing and you're working on developing your voice and you're implementing that into the process of writing your music and playing the guitar, what things do you feel like are limited by the guitar that aren't limited by the voice, and vice versa? Which things are limited by the voice that aren't limited by the guitar?
It's interesting. It's not just the guitar, but instruments in general. There's one major difference between the voice and every other instrument there is, and that is the fact that we don't only have we not only have the dimension, like the horizontal dimension, which is rhythm, or the vertical dimension, which is pitch, but we have a 3D dimension, which is lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So just the fact, you could copy and paste in your digital production software that you use. You could copy and paste the same verse and chorus, but you can put two types of lyrics to it, and suddenly you have twice the amount of material.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas with an instrument that wouldn't really work unless you would have to rearrange notes or arrangements and that's such kind of things. And just in general, the voice is the most expressive instrument on the planet because human brains are wired to be perceiving human voices differently than any other sound. Just genetically, historically, prehistorically.
Yeah, for sure.
There's something, there is some depth, and this sounds cheesy, but there's a depth of the human soul you reach with a voice that you cannot get anywhere close with any other instrument, I believe.
And do you feel that when you sing? Yeah, can you personally say that you experience that when you sing compared to playing guitar?
I think the music, good vocal music, good, or whatever I perceive as good vocal music, like music where the vocal really catches me, and the accompanying music, of course, too. But if that blend of amazing musical composition plus a great vocal performance, that there is something that is happening that is greater than the sum of the parts. There is some connection or explosion rather of energy happening that doesn't quite happen in instrumental music.
What so I obviously have gotten to experience your vocal journey firsthand. The people
Yeah.
listening to this haven't. They haven't gotten to see that.
Mhm.
What would you say was the biggest like light bulb moment? What made everything feel like it sort of started clicking with you?
Um, I think there's numerous breakthroughs and numerous light bulb moments that you have as a singer. My first teacher that I ever took a lesson from, the very first lesson, he showed me how the support mechanism works, and that was like a life hack. First of all, the funny thing is I couldn't figure out during the lesson. I could not figure out how to take a low breath and extend the rib cage and get the air really deep into the lungs. I couldn't figure it out, but then I was fooling around at home, and suddenly, oh, there it was, and I said, oh, yeah, now this makes sense. And then you try singing the very same stuff you've been singing before, and all of a sudden, it just seems to work better magically.
For sure.
That was a light bulb moment. Gosh, there's so many. Another one, a big one for me, was something that you taught me, and that was the importance of finding the right vowels to sing.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't even think of it as vowels so much anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the vowel is basically, you say sing an E vowel as in the word blah blah blah. That's basically just a crutch you use because we already possess the skill of speaking a language, so you can convey to me, do an E vowel, but what that does is basically set up the entire mechanism to function better on what you're currently trying to sing.
Definitely, absolutely. So
For me, that was kind of an enlightenment. It's not. I always thought that the vowel was just how I shaped the sound, and it doesn't really affect the mechanism. Until I understood that wait, the vowel changes the entire setup of the singing mechanism.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me, and whether you make or break a phrase can entirely, especially if you're singing in extreme registers, is entirely determined by how carefully you choose and nail your vowel.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Vowel choice is huge. You know, I've always been I've always been an advocate of making sure that your vowels are like calibrated properly and you understand which vowels work best for you in certain ranges because every voice is different, you know. So yeah, definitely. And I can think of multiple times working with you when so for the audience, Martin, what he tends to do is send me these like little clips of him singing something. Like he'll say, "Okay, well I just sung this part of the song, tell me what you think." And one thing that is like has caused like a marked difference in his singing across the board is I'll say, okay, well, it works especially well if I use like a German vowel sound for him. I can say, okay, well, use like the word nicht, use the I vowel on the word nicht, and he will use that vowel, and it just completely fundamentally changes the sound of the vowel, and it makes the quality a lot better because for whatever reason his body just sets that vowel up more efficiently than the others, and it could be because it's his native language and he speaks that, so he's used to using it more. It could be all sorts of things that cause that. It's hard to tell, there's not really
I always thought it was just an artistic choice what vowel you use.
It can be.
I understood. Yeah, to a degree, but again, singing extreme material that lies on the edge of your physical ability.
Yeah,
it's not really a choice anymore. It's make or break.
Yeah, you got to find what works and stick with it, and just hope that it comes out the way that you want it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I would like to sing this vowel on this note, but it doesn't work physically.
Let me ask you this: with that in mind, I know that we all wish that our ranges were different than what they are. Like no one is ever happy with their range. Yeah. So outside of the framework of thinking about your range what would you say is like the most difficult element of developing as a singer, like outside of like trying to hit high notes or trying to hit low notes?
Yeah, I mean, hitting notes in general. I thought, first of all, I had a giant misconception, which I think is very common in the public about singing, that singing was just hitting notes. And you either have a good voice or you have a bad voice, and you hit notes or you don't. And how it sounds is determined by the voice you have, and that's just not true. Definitely. It's how you use your voice that determines how the quality of the sound is.
Well, what's the most difficult element of that, would you think? Outside of obviously trying, like I said, trying to hit high or low notes. What's the hardest part of it?
What's the hardest part? Well, consistency of sound is very difficult. Pitch in general is just very difficult, especially with the demand we have for our recordings nowadays to be perfectly in tune to the scent. That is something that is almost impossible to demand from the human body. Yeah. But yeah, I would say tonal consistency throughout the range, but not range as in pushing myself to go higher, but just keeping a steady sound, a connected sound. And the other thing I would say is to disconnect volume from pitch. So to stay consistent with your volume and your tonal quality as you go through whatever part of your range. Because I at the beginning, especially, I still do to an extent, but at the beginning I correlated singing high with singing louder and harder. And it can be very difficult to go high, but do it with a light sound that is not entirely falsetto or air.
Right, and that's a massive challenge that a lot of people have to work on and try to undertake. So going back to the album, you mentioned a little while ago, and I kind of know the inside scoop on this a little bit, but you said that you're dealing with an injury, and that's kind of inhibited your album. Like, do you mind talking about what it is? Like, what do you think caused it? What kind of things you would recommend to other people if they feel what you're experiencing?
It's still a bit of a riddle of what is happening. I was recording on my album one day, and I gotta be honest, I overdid the recording. I was in the studio for like 3 hours, and in the studio you redo. Yep. So it's a solid 3 hours of singing, and difficult material, and basically I overworked my voice, and I also, I'm a bit of an OCD guy. So the subsequent days I kept checking my voice. So I do these sirens in falsetto, and I think I pushed my larynx too hard doing those, and for some reason developed some muscular imbalance in my throat because I did an MRI. Comes up with nothing. So every once in a while in my throat I feel a level of discomfort, and I feel some cracking. and I think by now that's a muscular disbalance, because I do physiotherapy at the moment about it, and it gets better from it. They strengthen, they like my neck and my throat muscles. Yeah, so it's something related to that. But I could sing. My voice hasn't changed at all. Like I've done A, B recordings. My voice hasn't changed in the slightest, and I can still use it. I'm just a bit hesitant to go for it.
So what do you have a kind of a game plan once you feel like things are set as to how you're going to manage things differently going forward?
Well, just in general, you gotta. There's, as I said, I'm a guitar player. I produce and I sing, and oftentimes there's a battle between the producer and the singer.
Hmm.
When I record, the singer in me wants to go, you know what? Voice is getting a little tired. Let's just call it a day. The producer goes, well, we need three more choruses.
Yeah.
And that's an ongoing battle. I just have to learn to know when enough is enough. And generally, I think I do know that. I think I'm much more careful with my voice than 98% of singers out there. Like, I've adjusted my lifestyle around it. I do not smoke. I do not drink. I drink tons of water.
Yeah.
I speak with core closure. Make sure to not whisper, not yell. I generally take good care of my voice. So yeah, unfortunately, that one time I overstepped, I got punished for it.
Yeah, there's a lesson in that in and of itself for those of you listening. Like, the voice is the voice is resilient in the sense that we use it a lot and it does a lot of work very frequently, but it does not take abuse very well. There are not a lot of cases where people just overtly abuse their voice and they just suffer no repercussions for it. I mean, this channel I've talked about it multiple times. You've heard it, where there are freaks out there that can do these crazy things, but on the bell curve, in the vast majority of cases, if you do abusive things to your voice, you're going to suffer some sort of repercussion. And the thing is, it can happen unintentionally too, like with Martin's case. It was totally unintentional. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's generally speaking, that I don't push my voice. I don't drive my voice too hard for a rock singer, unlike others. Like,
I would
don't
agree.
Do distortion and those types of things.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do mix into a falsetto instead of forcing everything out into oblivion. But every once in a while, for a studio recording, I will step a little bit beyond the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need a certain expression. And again, that's the producer in me wanting something else than the singer. And, the recording is forever.
Yep.
So I might just go, you know what? I'm going to try this 3 times and that's it. I'm going to scream this line, or I'm going to deliver it a little bit more aggressively. And then that has to be it.
Well, you want to capture that moment.
I will. Yes. Sometimes I consciously will overstep the lines when I do a recording.
I think that what's important to take away from this too is that it's a conscious choice, and I've talked about this on numerous occasions too. Like, that line where your voice goes, this doesn't feel so good. This doesn't feel like it's something that I could sustain. And so where you can say, all right, I'm going to just try this a few times to see if I can get that perfect moment on recording. If it doesn't work, I'm going to leave it behind. If it does work, great. But you don't force yourself to make that happen. Would you say that this injury was a result of you maybe pushing more than you typically would, or was it within the normal framework of how you would approach something?
I think it was kind of a combination of a few things. I did overwork my voice, but not in a sense that I abused it. I just took too much time. I used it for too long. Too a longer period of time.
Yep.
Yeah. So and then the next few days, I unfortunately have this habit of is my voice still okay? Is my voice still okay? And I go to these extreme falsetto ranges, and I could feel some muscular tension there, and I think I just blew a muscle, quite honestly, or it weakened it or something. So I think it came from that, not the actual singing session.
I tell you and all my students, and I'm sure I've said it on the channel multiple times too, like 90 minutes a day is usually the extreme most that you need to get in good vocalization. There's very rarely a need to sing for more than 90 minutes in a day. I mean, now I when I was in college, we sung for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week sometimes. And then when we have weeks where we had performances like operas or musicals or whatever, I mean, it was 7 hours a day sometimes. And I mean, I've told my story as well of having a mild injury. I don't even remember what it was called. It was something kind of rare and unusual, but I had a mild injury when I was in college that I had to go through voice therapy to get repaired. And that was really for me my defining moment where I was like, okay, you have to take this vocal health thing pretty seriously. I think that for all singers that experience an injury, except for the really just irresponsible ones, I think that most people who take it really want to take their voices seriously when they have that first moment of like, okay, I'm a human, my voice has limits. I think that's kind of where you go, yeah, I need to take this vocal health thing kind of seriously. And I think I get that impression from you too, that you're going to approach things pretty differently.
Yeah, you need that experience. It's like when a child learns where borders are. You need to overstep to understand where the line is.
Yeah. And it's a fine balance.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. You have to be careful because it's like, if you overstep the wrong way, well, there's no telling what kind of damage you're going to do, but you need to learn that lesson at the same time,
I think I have a very, very sensitive voice in general. Like,
I agree.
I like the sound of distortion, of vocal distortion, false fold, whatever they call it.
That stuff.
I can produce that sound. I know how to do it, but I literally do it once, and my voice feels different right after.
Some people experience that. Some people don't. Yeah.
Yes, but I think a lot of people don't experience it because they don't listen to their voice.
And
I don't mean as in with their ears, but with their senses. I think if you're brutally honest how your voice feels after you were screaming, you'll notice a difference.
There's an interview of a vocal idol of mine that I saw not too terribly long ago, and it was just like Facepalm, because I don't want to say who it is, but they said in the interview, somebody asked them, well, how do you make all these sounds? How do you sing like this? How do you make this work? And they said, you have to. I mean, this is the terminology. You have to beat your voice into submission, otherwise it will resist you the whole way through. But the thing is, that resistance is your body telling you, this is going to hurt you. So, that feeling of resistance is your body telling you this isn't a natural sound for you. This is not something that your voice would just make without you forcing it to.
It's like breaking your arm so it becomes stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Or, I think a big misconception that a lot of people have is that the muscles around the vocal mechanism do function like that. You break them down, they come back stronger. But you're dealing with cartilages and you're dealing with, tendons and things that are a lot less susceptible to that really fast recovery and regrowth. I mean, people that have vocal cord injuries tend to have extremely long recovery times.
As far as I'm concerned, the vocal cords themselves don't build any muscle.
No, the structures around them can.
They don't build mass. Because,
right.
I always say this, but by that theory, if you were to do that and you work your voice really hard, at some point you would suffocate.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the muscle structures around them, strengthen. They can become more resilient, but the folds themselves do not thicken like your arms or your chest does if you exercise. That's not how it works. And
here's the question. So obviously, different pitches are produced through varying stretches of the cords. Is that right?
Well, yeah. So you've got the two different ways that they can stretch. They can stretch this way, and then they can stretch up and down. Like the mechanism can pull up and down. The width and the width and the thickness of them can change, and the length. And there's different muscles that control that motion. And that's where you get into like your cricothyroid, your thyroarytenoid. Those are your muscles that control those kinds of motions, and that's what ultimately strengthens to allow the voice to hold in place longer at certain pitches.
So there is a degree of like if I sing, like as far a speech therapist once explained that to me that either one of them is responsible for chesty sounds. I think it's the TA.
Yes, the TA controls the closure, like like this motion, right? If I'm not mistaken, if there's scholars out there that I just say this slightly wrong, I apologize. I'm doing my best. The TA is kind of what controls this motion, whereas the CT is what controls the up and down motion. Like
So, would you say there is a degree? an ounce of truth to saying, well, if you sing high a lot with a chesty sound, that is going to strengthen that specific muscle group.
Yes, but that also then you've got other variables that come into play there. Just because you have a voice that can maintain that sound over a long period of time does not mean that you're singing it in a healthy way. You know, it's just like, I mean, you can do well, you can do all sorts of like physical exercises with your body with bad form and develop strength in a muscle, but then the rest of the structures around that muscle are compromised as a result of it. So that's why there's this balance of things that you have to consider when you sing. And I know this isn't really talking about your singing as much, but I think that this is an important subject as well that I guess I don't really touch on as much in my videos.
Also, those sounds that are produced by sheer force, they don't tend to sound very good, because I used to sing like that. And I could sing high from day one.
Yeah, well, you're a tenor.
I could go up to C5. First day I started singing, I just tried it out. Oh, there it was, but it sounded like dog poop.
Yeah.
And now what I'm doing is just trying to refine that range.
Yeah.
And try to get the same note, but without all the excessive force.
Well, you've got that constant like symbiotic balance of, you know, not pressing too hard with the breath, like not expelling too much air too forcefully, getting the good setup, the good position so that the vibrations themselves can resonate properly. Yeah, I mean, it's getting the right embouchure, you know, I mean, it's a lot of different things, and there's more to it than just saying make that CT muscle work better or engage the TA more. You know, there's just so much more to it than that. And that's why I don't really emphasize that as much, because it gets confusing and you can't actively stretch your TA muscle anyway. You know, I can't tell you flex your TA for me, Martin. Let's see it. You know, it doesn't work like that. So, you know, there's just so many other variables that you have to consider. But yeah, I mean,
I think definitely the way to go forward is to not see it like going to the gym, but instead of approaching it from a place of beauty of sound and balance, and then how far can I go while maintaining the good form?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, and that's the way that you should.
Compromise do I have to make to the form to go higher or lower?
Yep, and I think that speaks to a lesson that a lot of singers could take in for themselves. Be okay with your own voice. Accept your limitations that you have as a singer and just work to be the best version of your own voice that you can be, because that's what makes you distinctive anyway. There's a million people that can force themselves to sing, you know, A5s or whatever if they really tried hard enough to do it, but that doesn't make their voice distinctive, and that doesn't necessarily give them any of those inherent qualities that make their voices good or you know, effective at what they do. So that's a good lesson in of itself.
A few songs that I've been working on, I've actually transposed them, and I didn't transpose them because I couldn't hit the high note, which is a common misconception. You know, that people then you get shit online. Oh, they transposed it down. You can't hit the high note. Well, yes, I can, but my voice doesn't sound that. It sounds better when I take it down a step.
Yep, and you could go the other way too. I have had students that there's a student of mine who's also an acoustic guitarist. And he's a saxophonist, and he was singing. I think I know what that is. You probably do know. Yeah, you probably do know who that is. Yeah. And he was wanting to sing one of those French. It was like a French romance song, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was too low for him. It was just too low. He's a baritone, but it was just too low. So we took it up a step, and it changed the sonic quality of the guitar a little bit, but we took it up a step, and it sounds amazing. You know? So it goes both ways. It's not just a matter of like, let's lower this because your voice can't go high enough. There's a lot of times where people will raise something because their voice can't go low enough. So it's not like there's some inadequacy in your singing voice just because you can't reach some extreme of a range. And that's a huge misconception that people have. Anyway. Yeah, exactly. Range is overrated.
That my C5 is probably your G5.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's the very outer thing.
For sure.
That you can sing.
But the thing is,
completely.
if I sing in well, I guess would it be in a G5? G4. Be G4 for me. Not
sorry,
G5.
G4. Yes.
G5 was that's like the stratosphere. Yeah. No, I'm never singing a G5. That's never happening. But my G4, you know, if I could sing a G4, it would sound like, you know, if it would be good, it would sound triumphant and amazing because I have that big baritone voice. Whereas a tenor, if you sing your C5, then it would sound super triumphant and amazing because you're a tenor. It's all relative, like you said, you know.
And you have super high voice, like you say John Anderson from Yes. And when he sings a G4, it sounds like he's speaking. It
Yep.
doesn't give you that impression of, oh, he's going for that note. It just sounds like he's speaking.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all relative. But he wouldn't be able to burp out an A2 if his life depended on it. Like, that sound wouldn't even come out. It just wouldn't. So, and I think that we talked about this before too, that I think that there's some pressure in the industry to get those higher pitches on recording because they might be easier to mix, in certain genres. But I think that that's
I think it's about intensity and energy. There's something inherently. It's kind of funny because if you notice the development of pop music over the years, you'll see that women sing in the same range as men in pop music. Pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yep.
In the commercial sphere, the magic range seems to be between C4 and C5. That's where all the commercial music is made.
Yep.
And women, Adele, sing in that range, and Bruno Mars does as well.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
No different. It's hilarious.
Yep, 100%. I agree. So let's talk about the actual record itself. What is your goal? What are you trying to express? What are you trying to convey on this album? Other than, obviously, I've become a singer too. Like, what are you trying to say to people on this record?
Well, the lyrics are still in the making, but I would say there is a common thread to it. It's not a concept album by any stretch of the imagination, but there seems to be a common thread of introspection. It's a little bit more, except with a few exceptions here and there. It seems to be more about the inner self, the human experience, personal growth, struggles, overcoming those struggles, going outside of your comfort zone. I kind of wanted to create a metaphor for what I felt I was going through in the last 5 years.
So yeah, I guess I can say this. I'm actually working with Martin on the lyrics for the album. He is. I guess he. Well, actually, what did make you want to work with me in the first place on it? I don't even know what made you come to me about it.
Well, I know you were a lyricist. There's a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I was going to bring somebody in anyway because I'm not a native English speaker. So
yeah.
The way I make a record like this, I wanted to hold up to scrutiny in any level.
Yeah, for sure.
And there has been some things going on with the making of that record that postponed it. I was actually going to have it done by this time last year, but there were a couple of things happening that postponed it, and I was actually very glad about that because that meant I could develop my voice further, and I think that's ultimately going to make for a better record. So yeah, and not only do I want it to hold up in terms of guitar playing, I also want it to hold up in terms of composition, in terms of sound and production, but also vocals and also lyrics. I don't want people to go, well, obviously he didn't put as much effort with the lyrics. Like I want this to be a well-rounded product. So I wanted to bring somebody in who's a native English speaker, who has experience with writing lyrics, because I got none. So yeah, I just generally speaking, I think I'm a person. I appreciate expertise, and I appreciate when somebody is more skilled and more experienced at something than I am. That's why I wanted to. For me, it was no question from day one that if I become a singer, I'm going to do it through vocal training.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I thought somebody has all this stuff figured out.
Yeah. Well, not all of it. We don't know everything, but we got some of it. We got some figured out.
Yeah, of course. But somebody knows about this much more than I do. And being a guitar teacher myself, I know I have a lot to give to students in the same way that when I'm a voice student, I have a lot to receive from a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, kind of that. I want the album to hold up lyrically as well, just like it does with all the other aspects, hopefully, or maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah, I could say that.
The reason. Also, understand the music that I'm going for.
Yeah.
Your taste is very similar to the music that I make.
What I can say from my own perspective of doing this whole thing, that it's cool because we're kind of collaborating on this, and Martin has come to me with some very clear ideas about what he's, what he wants the song to say. And for me, when I've written in the past, I've always kind of been sort of free form, and it's been a lot more metaphorical, and it's been a lot more like, I guess I've had an idea in mind, and I just kind of run with it. I'll use extended metaphors or certain figurative language and things like that. But in Martin's case, it's kind of already structured in a way to where I can say, all right, well, let's figure out what we want to say here, and let's say it in the most eloquent way that we can that still fits the mood of the music. And
it's maybe worth to mention that the way the demos I sent to you, they have full vocals on them.
Yep.
With nonsense lyrics.
Yep.
But there's actually purpose to those nonsense lyrics because they determine the melody, the rhythm, the amount of syllables, and even the vowels.
Yeah, it's been really interesting in that sense. Yeah, for sure.
It's like I had the demo like, super excited to introduce the brand new.
Yeah.
That was nonsense. But and then that turned into searching inside me.
Yeah.
We're super excited turned into searching inside me.
Yeah.
And so there was a merit to having. There was a reason I put super excited there. I wanted to have that sound there. We need to kind of wrap it up and give it a meaning.
Yeah, and it's been a really cool process. Like I'll tell you this. I'm gonna promote Martin's album. I think I've heard all of it except you have 2 instrumentals on it, right? Is that right? Or one? One. So I've heard everything. I haven't heard the instrumental. I didn't hear the instrumental. I've heard everything except for the instrumental.
Well, should I spoil a little bit here? It's the tune that plays at the end of my session videos.
Oh yeah, sure, go for it. I think it'll, as long as it's audible. Yeah, go for it, man.
People keep asking what that song is, but I never answer because I wanted to.
Oh, maybe I did. Maybe I did hear this then. If that's the instrumental, I don't remember. Well, either way, what I was going to say is I've heard definitely all the songs that have lyrics on them. This album is going to be killer, and I'm not just saying that like to promote Martin. I mean, I've gotten to work on I've heard these songs copious amounts of times, and they've really kind of, I've internalized them quite a bit, and it's an album that sticks with you. It's really, really, really good. Like good vocal melodies, it's singable. The melodies are nice. I mean, it's good. You guys are gonna love it when it's all finished. It's gonna be good. So yeah, if you want to spoil something, go for it, man.
No, that's about it. That was the spoiler.
Okay, there we go. All right.
That 30-second thing that plays at the end of my videos. That's the instrumental.
Cool. Well, I don't want to
stretch out to 7 minutes.
I don't want to use up too much more of your time, but I do want to ask you a couple more things. So. Sure. You told me, and I guess you don't have to talk about this if you don't want, but you told me that coming to me as a voice teacher, and as everyone knows from my last video, I'm kind of on a hiatus of teaching, so I'm not trying to talk about my own instruction here. This is more about your experience. You said that it was a blow to your ego when you got to me as when you were taking voice lessons from me. Why was that? And is that a valid experience for you to have gone through? Do you think that was worthwhile as a singer for you to have experienced?
I mean, another misconception that I had going into vocals, and would I have known that it is such, it would have maybe made me not pick up the voice as an instrument, is that the vocal education community is extremely divided.
Yes.
Yeah. You'll know. It's extremely divided. There's so many camps, so many schools of thought. And it is too much to ask of an amateur like me to distinguish the right from wrong. That's what the education should be there for. But it's a jungle. It is a jungle. And I've gone through like 5 or 6 teachers before I came to you, and they've been from wildly different schools of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of torn between different directions. I was just very confused, but at the same time I was making progress. I mean, from any teacher I ever had, I was able to pick something up.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes something for the worse. Something for the worse. But I was still developing and changing. So I thought any change that happens must be for the better. What I didn't realize is actually that my voice was going downhill. And you made that very clear for me from the first lesson, that I've been on the wrong path for some time with certain things, not with others. I've improved certain areas, but gotten worse in others. And it's just a hard thing to accept, that you spend X amount of months training something that you now need to untrain.
Yeah, I remember the first conversation. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, or even understanding that your voice might never be able to do that the way you want it to.
There was a
Awesome.
the first time we met. I remember we just had like a pretty long chat. Like so this is for the audience. I had no idea who Martin even was. Like when he reached out to me on Facebook, and I was okay. Martin Miller, another person reached. My YouTube channel still had like 400 subscribers or something, and people have been asking me about voice lessons and stuff. So I was like, okay, this Martin Miller guy, he wants to take voice lessons. Let's talk to him. I had no idea that this guy was like Ibanez endorsed and played with world famous guitarists and was a world class guitarist of his own. Like I didn't know any of this stuff, so it was like he's just another guy that was going to take lessons, and I actually didn't even know how famous he was until well after the fact. But so I talked to him in our first little discussion like he was just any other student. Like these are the things that's going on with your voice. These are issues that you need to work out. And I remember getting a distinctive feeling of pushback from him, like almost like skepticism or okay, well, we'll just, this is thank you for your time kind of thing, like, and then I remember Martin kept sending me like recordings of himself and asking my opinions, and I kept saying the same things, not because I was trying to like force him to feel bad or anything. It was just, this is what I was hearing, I was just giving him feedback. And finally he came to me and was like, okay, Zach, just brainwash me. He literally said, just brainwash me. I'll do what you tell me to do. And I've gotten to be
I think that's a very
go ahead.
It's a very important accept to be, I think, to submit yourself to a method for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Not constantly question what you're doing. I think that's the only way to get the best out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what? Let's let these things happen and see where it takes me.
I can say with absolute certainty that Martin's development, I'm speaking to you in third person, but I'm talking to the viewers, of course. Martin's vocal development. Martin's vocal development has been incredible. I mean, I still have before and afters from when he started with me, until, what I've heard more recently. And I mean, I hear covers of things that he does, and I hear, studio recordings that he puts together, he's working on. And I mean, the amount of control and the amount of tonal quality and the amount of consistency he has developed is remarkable. I mean, I use him as like a trophy student when I show, when there were people who were, when people say, okay, well, can you give me an example of your results? I say, yeah, sure. Listen to this. And every time, I do that, people say, wow, that guy's really come along. But the thing is, I don't want to make it seem like it's all me. The reality of it is that I have a method that I learned from people who educated me, and that's how I teach. He put in the work, and he trusted in his teacher. He found a teacher that has some good knowledge on it, that is reputable and knows what they're talking about, and then he trusted it, and he didn't resist it. And now he's got the best sounding voice that I've ever heard him have. I mean, you sound better now than I've ever heard. So even like, so he just sent me a cover not too long ago, and it even has it. You're kind of deviating a little bit from what we've worked on, some of the sounds you're making in that cover and stuff like that. But it sounds great, and I can tell through that cover that you're making these choices of when you want these things to sound a certain way, and it's excellent.
Yes, so it's gonna be online soon, but it's this cover that I'm currently doing. I said to myself, I want to use pretty much every facet of my voice.
Yeah, and it shows. It shows.
And it uses all the range. It starts super low, goes ridiculously high. It has chord closure. It has breathy sounds in it. It has like very back placement type sounds.
Yeah.
Chiaroscuro type thing, placed a bit further in the throat. Those types of things. It has vocalizations in it. Those types of things. Yeah, I wanted to kind of use all of it. And I know that some is outside of the scope of what you teach, like the super breathy sounds, for example. But I know when to switch them on and off.
Dr. Hobbins, my voice teacher in college, still one of my finest mentors in my life. He's always told me that once you've got the technique, then it's about establishing your vocal identity and your vocal color, right? And learning how to color your voice accordingly to how the music dictates. And listening to that recording, that cover, I hear that you are reaching that point to where you can make conscious choices. And I've said this from the beginning when I first started this YouTube thing in videos over and over again. Get to the point to where you understand how to make smart choices with your voice. And you'll find that you aren't as limited as you think you are. It's just a matter of knowing the limits of your own mechanism and how to do it without hurting yourself. And you are absolutely reaching that point as a singer for sure.
I mean, if I sang, it was just a couple lines that I sang very breathily, and it's not going to be the end of the world.
No, of course
Like,
not.
If I wake up and whisper to my girlfriend, that's about as much harm as that does.
Yeah, exactly. The problem comes in when you develop your tech, or when someone, not you, when someone develops their technique hinged around these unhealthy habits. You know, me going like this for a few minutes is not going to hurt me, and it's not going to ruin my voice for the rest of my life. That's ridiculous. But when someone hinges everything they do in singing upon making that sound, yes, you're going to have a vocal injury. So, you know, you've obviously learned that, and you've learned to make distinctions between healthy habits and unhealthy habits that are controllable. And that's a huge facet. I think there's a big lesson that can be taken away from that from, you know, anyone who see this anyway. So yeah, man, do you have anything else that you'd like to say, or any other things you'd like to comment on before we go?
No, just maybe for the learning, for the students out there, double check your sources. Find a good teacher. Trust. If you find a good teacher, trust what they tell you. Don't have, and this is very another hard pill to swallow. But don't think of the end result. Think of the process.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because you don't even know what the end result is going to be. I love Ronnie James Dio, but never going to sound like him. So I shouldn't try to sound like Ronnie James Dio, but I should try to do with my voice what he does within the realm of his voice.
Sure.
So, and also, yeah, for the instrumentalists out there, learn to sing. It widens your palette as a musician so much, and also it keeps you humble, because unlike a guitar or a piano or a violin, the voice has very specific limitations that you have to work within. But as much as that is a restriction, it's also a thing of beauty that makes you unique. And yeah, again, widens your palette as a musician of expression beyond belief.
I would say that developing my voice throughout the course of my life has been probably one of the best things for my own ego that I've ever experienced. Because when I was younger, I've always been a baritone since I was, you know, since I hit puberty. I was a baritone. Like, it was just, you know, just going to be how it was, you know, and there's nothing I could do. And I grew up listening to all these, like, you know, I loved Symphony X, you know, Russell Allen and Dream Theater, and, you know, all these like super tenor, you know, and I always wanted to do that. And I always remembered thinking, like, I know I can sing, I can make this happen. And as I got older, it didn't get easier to sound like that. It got harder. And so I just had to kind of, you know, learn to tell myself that's not what my voice is built to do. And doing that has caused me to look at everything within a more measured framework when I approach singing and when I approach anything in life. You know, I go into it thinking, like, I might not be able to do exactly what I want, you know?
It's something I still struggle with, though. I still don't know what the sweet spot of my voice is really, or where the cap is really of what it can do. And I think it's because I'm not a black and white case, I would say. Like, you're a black and white case. You're a bass baritone.
Yep.
My friend Matthias, who sings in my band, is a black and white tenor, period.
Yep.
Like, even for a tenor, he is on the outer high edge of... Most tenors have lower voices than him.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of sit a little bit in the middle.
Yeah, I mean...
And I also my voice quality, it's not lyrical, but it's also not super duper bright, or it's just hard to determine. I'm a bit of a gray area voice.
That's okay, though. That means it's unique, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. And that's you work with what you have, and you made it sound great. So who cares, you know? I mean, it's like my Fach video. Like, who cares if you can make your voice sound at the best of its quality? If you're not going to be trying out for an opera and you aren't trying to fit a specific role, who cares what your voice is and is not? Labeling it doesn't make it any better or any worse.
It's just harder to find a singer that will be a role model.
Be your own role model.
Yeah.
That's, you know, no, there is no one else who has your voice. I tell everybody this. Take 10 of your friends, stand them behind the door, and tell them all to say hello. You'll know each voice based on, you know, them saying hello, because the voice it defines itself. It has its own intrinsic characteristics that defines itself. So don't worry about it. Your voice will be what it will be, and be happy with it. It's really that simple.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, thank you for spending your time talking with me. It's always a pleasure. You're a great friend of mine, and I cannot wait to see this album come out and everyone love it. It's going to be awesome. So everybody out there in internet land, pay close attention. Stay tuned, because this album is coming and it's going to be really good. You guys are going to love it.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for the great.
The what? I couldn't hear you. The great what?
Thanks for the great instruction and guidance.
Oh, yeah,
over
man.
The years.
Hey, you're the one that
made a tremendous difference to my voice. So definitely, I think I know myself, my voice a lot better since I've undergone your treatment.
all I do is just bark orders at you. You're the one that does all the work. So keep it up, man. So I will see you all later. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.